How's it going, YouTubers? So I'm trying something new today. I'm going to be featuring subscriber replays. Dr. Saka is today's feature duelist. So I'm going to start by just featuring their last 5 replays here. They are playing Paleo, a deck I've always kind of wanted to try but never really had much experience with. And so we're going first here, and you can see that they're using a Primite version of it. Now their deck list will change throughout because this is over a span of a couple months, the replays, and this is current ban list on Master Duel. So they're gonna hit us with a Fua, and it doesn't matter because Ether Barrel's effect will still resolve. So we have the Drill Beam, and then yeah, let's see what we go into here. Pull out the vanilla, then set 3 more and then pass. They will skip their turn, and so I'm just trying to kind of get a feel for what we're going for here and what they're up against now. In end phase, we're starting to set up for follow, because what's going to happen is Paleo is going to basically be trying to get a lot of useful traps into the graveyard, such as Transaction Rollback, other Paleo cards, and it's going to make use of cards like Trap Trick in order to be able to spam effects out from the grave really quickly. So we'll enter battle phase, we'll hit for 28, and then in main phase 2 we will Xyz into Opibinia. I think I'm saying that right. Now this card here is important. This card allows you to play Paleo traps from your hand. This insulates you from cards like Harpy's Feather Duster, and particularly now it insulates you from MST because of Radiant Typhoon. We end there with the Seals, and they'll go for Harpy's Feather Duster, but we'll Drill Beam. Now they go for the Droplet, sending the trap, so now we can tell that this is a Mitsurugi deck. We chain Seals so that we can bounce back the Primite card and protect ourselves from Duster. And then they'll hit our Paleo monster with Droplet. So kind of unfortunate. But now Seals will get us a Dragon out here. So we're using the Dragon Maid card to mill 3. And this is important because when you're playing a 60 card pile, Laundry Dragon Maid's mill effect is going to come in handy. So we can get the cards that we need into the graveyard so that we can have follow-up plays. Because right now, otherwise, we'd be pretty vulnerable. Because the Paleo card, one of the things that the Paleo monsters have that's really useful is that they're unaffected by monster effects. However, that doesn't mean that they're so they're vulnerable, however, to cards like Droplet. So right now, for example, Habakiri is able to start to pop off and do some things. Like, we would be vulnerable to the Mirakumo board wipe here. But courtesy of the mill from Dragon Maid, we do have some follow-up plays, so stay tuned for that. I'm choosing to do this first replay in slow motion as I kind of get like acclimated and familiar with the deck. Just because I've never played this before. So now we take control of Habakiri there. They, in order to prevent them from going into Mirakumo directly, so they have to go into Futsu first. But because they tributed the Murakumo, now they can, rather, because they have it engraved, they can use the Mitsurugi spell to just special summon it directly anyway. So we were only delaying the inevitable there. Now here comes the board wipe. And then chain Futsu also. Now, we are still able to activate the trap from hand. And we get a card back into the grave, so that's important too. Resource management with this deck is really great, and then the Paleo cards are good at kind of just recycling themselves, because you can get cards back from banishment into the grave. Also interesting there. So it looks like, despite the Droplet, yeah, the card is still invulnerable to monster effects, and we were still able to activate traps from hand. So very key there, because it means that the Mitsurugi deck cannot for sure OTK us this turn, as we activate Magicaloidal Soul from Grave. So we special summon and can then quick Xyz or quick Synchro. Now they do hit us with the lava golem before we can do that, and they are able to beat over the Paleo Xyz card. So this is a pretty compromising position because we only have 2 in hand, and they have a semi-omni negate, and they're going to end with IP, and then Futsu will continue to generate advantage there as well. And I'm pretty sure that the set card there is either Purification or one of the quick play spells. But in end phase, we're able to target Pop It, and we're able to get the Paleo card back on field. So we're generating some bodies, and I was right, it was one of the quick play spells. Now, unfortunately, because you special summon, that allows them to get Habakiri out with Futsu. Now we'll try to get Ether Barrel back. They will chain the Mirakumo negate, and we will discard. So that kind of helps us actually. Well, it could help us depending on what we mill with it, but we'll beat over the IP. I guess they didn't want to use it there. We'll use Ether Barrel, get another Primite card out. Now Drill Beam will come back. And now we will go into Sprite Elf. And this is big because it'll allow us to recycle some cards there. They're still going to get some advantage back. And then, yeah. So this is a really grindy game. And all of these replays will truly be grindy games, but we're going to try to recycle the Dragon Maid's effect here. Futsu will just continue to build up a wall of reptiles for them. We do mill the transaction rollback off of the Dragon Maid, which is huge because now we can start to do some shenanigans. So we'll pop one of our own traps to set one of the Paleo traps, which we can now activate. We'll use the other one now. You're gonna have to forgive me here that I don't know the names of these cards particularly well. But as you can see there, we got one of our ace traps into the grave. We have Elemental Burst. So having the ability to just blow up your opponent's entire board without having to actually meet the activation requirements is going to be massive here. Now we're going to use the Paleo trap to get something back onto the field there. It's a special itself, and then use the other one to get one back in grave. So as you can see, recycling transaction rollback is going to be important. We're going to use the Primite trap currently. They're going to try to negate. We will discard to pay the cost here. And we take control of Mirakumo. And that's actually pretty huge. Now we'll use Needlebug Nest, and we'll use the Paleo trap again. We'll use the Drill Beam real quick. They're going to special summon courtesy of Purification. We're going to try to use... I mean, this is just to kind of make them discard something, basically. And then we'll use Transaction Rollback to start to spring a trap here. So we'll use it to pop our Drill Beam and then set Threatening Roar. It's a miracle this game didn't go into time, honestly. But yeah, now that we have Threatening Roar, we can at least protect all of our forces for this turn. So they can build up everything they'd like to, but they're not going to be able to do anything with it. Now they do get Purification back, so they will have a true Omni Negate at the cost of sacrificing a reptile. And we give Mirakumo back, so now their Negate is live, and we have to be careful. We'll bait the Negate, and now we'll use Sprite Elf, mill some more cards. We'll use the Xyz monster to search a Paleo trap. We'll link off into Cambuster. They'll try to negate, and they do, so they'll negate and pop. Now the Marinces card is huge here because of its secondary effect, which is it's saying that you can't special summon monsters that are not water. So when you use Zulantis' effect, you then cannot re-special summon the monsters that your opponent had on the field. So it leaves them wide open, which then allows our guest feature today to OTK. Here we are in game 2. We are going second, so let's take a look. We are facing Branded. We have rollback, 2 and 3 paleo traps, as well as evenly matched. So this game, I was fully expecting it to be incredibly grindy when I saw that it was Branded on the other side. Because Branded, just by default, has so many end phase effects, which is basically like main phase 3 for them. They can recur a lot of their cards and really just interrupt you in a lot of different ways. And then one thing that I was curious if it would come up would be the Tax Dragon, because the Paleo deck, in order to use rollback and other effects, is paying a lot of life points. Not to mention that it can leave itself vulnerable to the occasional attack. So I wanted to see how can we play around this? What's going on? Like, what are we gonna do? Now, I anticipated just going right into evenly, and I was right. So this will force out some of their interaction so that they can have something usable left on the board. And they end up on just Light and Darkness Dragon, which is actually a pretty powerful interruption because it's an Omni Negate and it's a mandatory effect. Now I'm trying to think, what can they use to interrupt that? And they have Breakthrough Skill, a card that you don't really see too much in the advanced format right now, but it works well in this situation because Light and Darkness Dragon's effect is only once per chain. So right there, they were able to negate Light and Darkness Dragon's effect for the rest of this turn and allow themselves to pop off with the Paleo cards. It is worth noting that Light and Darkness Dragon will now have its effects again live back on our turn. We will immediately Xyz into Opabinia. Again, not sure if I'm saying it right. They will try to negate, but we're unaffected. And here, because we use Breakthrough Skill's effect, not the card, Light and Darkness Dragon can't negate it. So then it is rendered useless, and we're able to then out it with one of the Paleo traps. Now they go there into some of their Branded plays, and it looks like they're more onto the Despia cards now. Out comes the Tax Dragon. Now this Branded player clearly didn't read, because they were thinking that they could banish the Xyz monster, but obviously it is unaffected by monster effects. And we have Typhon on board now too. So we have some insulation from future use of the Mirror Jade's effect. Now we've set up Daruma Karma Cannon. They're going to use Branded Fusion. And what I'm trying to figure out is what are they going into, and then they go into Sanctifier Dragon. So now I think I get the idea. They're going to try to fuse off using a Fallen of Albaz, and then we see some of their Dracotail cards hitting the graveyard. So it's full Branded Draco here. And this actually gives them some creative ways to out some of our cards. Now, they can't negate any of the Paleo effects again because our monsters are unaffected, except Typhon there. And they do pop the Daruma Karma Cannon, but we were able to use the Rise to New Heights trap, and that trap is huge for this deck because it is able to actually just effectively end battle phases. So you'll see here, they can only attack certain cards, and if that card is no longer on the field, then they can't attack anything else. So it basically just keeps you fighting, keeps you alive for another turn, and we draw into Droplet. Now they're going to Tax Dragon, we're going to use an effect, and we will then try to just extend here. I feel like the play here is to try to go into Gigantic Sprite and then into Zeus to clear the board, but we're running low on life points, so there has to be another way. Now we go into Cam Buster. They use Albion again. The Link is also unaffected by monster effects. We take control of Saranir. They go into Chaos Dragon. Again, they're going to try to pop. It's unaffected. But I'm really thinking here, how do they get out of this? Now we out their Spell Trap. We set some of our own. And of course that if we set our own, it can be activated this turn, so we go into it. And now we bring out this Xyz monster. we're able to add 3, and then we're going to go into the play with Zealantis. So the one that we showcased in the last duel, Zealantis is going to clear the board. Now Mirror Jade's effect will be live, I believe. Or maybe not. Curious as to why, but anyway. So they do have a 3k beat stick on board, and if they're able to attack us, we are cooked. They go into Gulamel now to try to, I guess, pop some of our back row. But we'll use Rise to New Heights again so that they can only attack the defense position monster. And it looks like we're running some of the Dracotail traps as well. So we get a lot of utility from some of these trap cards because some will function like a Call by the Grave. We can take control of stuff. Lots of useful stuff there. And so we're using Dracotail Flame to actually negate their Ketu. It's kind of a nice little loaded irony in that. And again, they can only attack one monster, so that ends their turn. And now we can try to break through. So we'll activate the Zealantis. They will fuse into the Tax Dragon again. The Zealantis effect will resolve. And a couple of things to note here. So our traps don't participate in this little situation here because they're unaffected. And thankfully, the Tax Dragon only hits the field on resolution. So it gets set and we don't have to pay 600 life points. So we're safe in that regard. And now we can use Rollback to leave us with 175. Clear the board with Elemental Burst. They do get Tax Dragon back, but we go into Mosquito and then we'll crash into the Tax Dragon to set up Zeus. They go into Aluber. But now we've flipped the script completely. We are winning the card advantage battle now, and I think it's only a matter of time before we can actually just end the game. Because now we have a Searcher in the Xyz monster, we have Zeus with 3 materials, we have an Unaffected by Monster Effects trap, and we have Rollback set. We'll use Blackjack to stack the deck. That was to get Trap Trick live. And they end their turn on that. Zeus gets another material from its secondary secret effect. So we do wipe the board, and of course the Xyz monster is unaffected, so we get to keep the body there. And again, now we have basically just significant advantage because we can search a trap, can be activated from the hand, but we don't even need to. They scoop it up because they knew that the battle was lost at that point. And we're going second here with 2 Trap Trick, Dracotail Horn, evenly matched, and then Absolute King Blackjack. And let's see, we're facing Vanquish Soul K9. So this should be interesting because I figure that Vanquish Soul K9 will just swarm the board and have a bunch of interruptions. I mean, the typical end board I think is what you're going to see here. Where basically you're going to have Umbral Horror. They have Ripper on board obviously, so they're going to have a negate. They go Val on here. And they just end on that. So kind of underwhelming actually, but it makes sense because we're not triggering any of the effects that let them extend. And they shotgun Force Release here, which I thought was interesting because they lose the benefit of the pop. We go Eperia to draw 1. They'll use Werewolf's effect already to then banish a card from our hand for this turn. And then they flip Eperia face down. And then we set 5 and pass. They will go into Izuna. Oh, sorry, it's Jokul, then Izuna sends Lupus. Lantern, well, they'll Xyz first into Nash Knight. So they're going to have Umbral Horror live in a second. And they pop one of our spells, well, one of our traps actually. Then they go into Lantern to get Lupus out. We're going to use Rise to New Heights on Werewolf. They will then banish a card from our field and graveyard, and this one's for keeps, it doesn't come back. But now that we have Rise to New Heights live, we can actually use it so that it ends their turn. Well, it ends their battle phase, effectively. They still end on a pretty imposing board because now they have Umbral Horror, Ripper, and Valon. We'll use Trap Trick to try to get some Paleo cards into rotation, which we can now use. So Umbral Horror will remain on the field for this turn, but we don't have to worry too much about it because if we can play around it, then it's no big deal. They're going to go into Jacks with the Force Release and then pop our King Blackjack. So we'll just stack the deck, then use Transaction Rollback here. Use Trap Trick. Then we will get our Paleo card. Now we'll be able to draw cards equal to the amount of cards that they have in their hand, so we can get, feels almost like the anime with Card of Sanctity. We go into Typhon, and then we'll pass. Umbral Horror goes away, and now we will then, on their turn, start to build the board with the Paleo traps, and we'll out the Werewolf too. So we banish the Werewolf. They're going to try to link climb a little bit. They go into SP. SP will banish the Typhon, and then we will just use Rollback. We get the Paleo cards into rotation again. Now we get Ice Dragon's Prison on board. We'll use Daruma Karma Cannon. They'll be able to bounce their SP, or bounce their SP. But our cards are unaffected by that, so they'll just get reset by Cannon. We'll flip them up, and then we'll go into the Xyz, which allows us to search a trap and activate it in hand, from hand. That mechanic actually feels a little bit like Trap Runic. I'm sure the person who submitted these replays to me is cringing right now for me saying that, sorry. But it's kind of true. If you want, I can compare it more to Magical Musket, but anyway. They'll hit us with Nib here. But it's okay because we can still generate some more advantage there using the Paleo traps. We'll go into Sprite Elf, get a period back for a draw. We go into Evenly. We will use Transaction Rollback there to go for Rise to New Heights. We're just going to activate it on field to be able to get into Graveyard, and then we go into Mosquito. Now we have Mosquito set up. Mosquito basically is just going to be there to kind of menacingly, essentially, because we take no damage, and we're going to make it so they can only attack Mosquito. So we're going to have it put a counter on Jax. We'll do 26 of damage there. They'll go into the Force Release again, have it set. Now they're going to go into Zeus though. So I'll use Super Poly, oh sorry, they'll use Super Poly to get rid of it and Nibiru, and they'll scoop it up because at that point I think that was really their last play. Alright, we're going first here now. So we have Fiend Griefling, which will act as a call by the grave. Then we have the two Paleo traps, Rollback, and Dracotail Flame. So we're just basically going to set 5 and pass. But don't let that fool you. This deck is significantly big brain because you have to know exactly when to use what interactions. And we're facing here off against Snake Eye Azamina, featuring Dragoon clearly. Now this right here was smart to use the Flame to negate the Azamina card, or the Sinful Spoils card, and then we'll use the other trap, the Call by the Grave, to get rid of D-Mod. This was great situational awareness, as then most people will try to use Gaze of Timaeus on your turn so that Dragoon will last longer. But by outing it this turn, now we don't have to worry about that. And then we'll use Trap Trick. And then we'll set another trap with the other trap. It's traps all the way down here, basically. And now we'll be able to pop a spell or trap with basically the trap version of MST. We'll use Rollback, get that same card in a rotation, pop the other back row. And now we have 2 level 2 trap monsters on board to go into the Xyz monster, which will then let us search. They'll try to get their Snake Eye card into play, but they can't use it to put my monster in the back row, because again, it's unaffected by monster effects. We'll go into Cam Buster, and then we'll send Daruma Karma Cannon, get a Paleo card into play, use it, then get that monster on board. We send the Rise to New Heights card to the grave. We'll use Gigantic Sprite to get a period, to get a draw. Now we go into SP. SP will banish that monster. and we'll set the rise to new heights. So right now we're still not in a great position, but we've really leveled the playing field there. I say we're not in a great position because they still have a bunch of things that they can do to pop off, but we do have some ways to interrupt them. And then now that we're using we're using Trap Trick here. So now again our trap monsters are on board, and we have some just other added interruption here. They go into Murcielago. We're gonna SP banish both, temporary banish both. They go for OSS there, and they get Snake Eye Ash. They go into Poplar. So this is like I'm sure some people are getting PTSD from watching this combo. We'll use the Paleo trap there to special summon and send. Then we'll use Black Goat Laughs. Now they're gonna go into Doom Dragon, but they can't attack thanks to rise to new heights because we sent the monster that we target with it originally to the grave. They're gonna go into Promethean Princess. They can't pop anything of ours, not right now anyway. Then SP comes back, as does Murcielago. Then we draw into Ice Dragon's Prison there. Promethean Princess does pop, but only their monster. Ours is safe. We'll search a trap. We'll then send the Paleo to the grave, special summon, and we get roll back into the grave again. We go into Elf. Elf will get a Pyria back for a draw. And then we go for Mosquito. And the only reason to do that was to get Zeus on board. So now we have a board wipe ready to go. King Blackjack will activate. So we'll set Elemental Burst, which obviously the plan there is get it to grave and then cheat it out with rollback. We're going to fight Droplet with Droplet there, which is clutch because then we can get SP back thanks to Elf. Rise to New Heights will take effect there, and then we'll use Ice Dragon's Prison along with a Paleo trap here. So we stole their Ash, their Snake Eye Ash. They're gonna go into the Hallowed Azamina. They get Poplar to hand. Poplar effect is gonna activate. They go into Link Karibo. And now at this point we're just gonna Zeus, and that ends their turn. Now at this point I believe we can just switch everything to attack mode, and then yeah. Now we crash SP so we can get an extra material onto Zeus, but they pop the Zeus. So that was actually pretty clever on their part. But now we'll just roll back, use Ice Dragon's Prison to get Flamberge and have our trap monsters. So we beat over Promethean, 24 to the face. And then we go into Marincest. But this is now not to use the Zelanthus play, but rather to just get our Cambuster out so that we can get rid of their back row. And we're in full control of the board now. They will just pass on that, and we have enough for lethal. Enter battle phase, and that's GG. They scoop it up before we can even hit them with their own monster. Alright, going second. Let's take a look at what we got. We got a Paleo Trap, Blackjack, Trap Trick, Evenly, and Sting. They're going to Rhoda, so again, yeah, they get Raisin. So we're facing Vanquish Soul K9. They're going to fool us in case we try to special summon. They have no idea what they're dealing with here, because we're just going to be able to trap monster them to death, as they'll find out soon enough. But they're going to go full combo here. So unlike the first Vanquish Soul K9 player, this board is actually going to be it's going to be a lot more formidable. So our guest duelist here is going to have to actually really just be precise with how they break the board. The thing I really appreciate about this build of Paleo, this type of trap deck, is that it's not leveraging any toxic cards like D-Barrier or other floodgates. It's really just about well-timed pops, banishes, and attack negates. So it's very interactive, and I think it's a really fun style to play. So as you can see already, they have Ripper, Umbral Horror, and Valen, along with Rocco the Vanquisher. They're going to use Rock already on our turn. They shotgun the Force Release again. We go right into battle phase, just so we can use evenly. They'll banish the grass temporarily, which I think was probably the proper move there. And yeah, right now they're still kind of winning the card advantage battle. But the tricky thing here is that because the Paleo monsters are unaffected, a lot of the Vanquish Soul cards are kind of useless. Like Raisin won't be able to just pop. They can't flip with Valon. They can't use a lot of their effects there. They can't take control of it with Holly Sue. So right here, we're just going to kind of preserve our life points a little bit, keep ourselves going. We'll Daruma Karma Cannon to set their cards. They will Izuna because of our Blackjack effect, but that's fine. Now we get grass back, so we're going to be able to actually mill a ton. And that's what's going to decisively swing this in our favor, because yeah, they're going to have max C. So even though we do give them some draws from the special summoning of our trap monsters, look at everything that we just sent to grave. So we're going to have like Needle, Bug, Nest. We're going to be able to search any trap that we need now, or any Paleo trap that we need. So we're going to send one, we send Rollback to grave, use Rollback, pop the board with Burst, and then we set one and pass. So we've definitely leveled the playing field. And again, now we have an unaffected by monsters, and then we use Droplet there to stop Dr. Madlove. So we just really hurt their recursion, and now we're going to use Black Gold Laughs, and they're forced to end on SP. Because otherwise they would have used Rock with a Vanquisher, but now that we goaded it, I guess would be the term, they can't. Now we search for a trap, we get a Paleo trap out, we'll pop and then use our Grave Effect to special summon. We get Rise to New Heights out. They're going to try to SP, but again, they don't read and they don't realize that it's unaffected. Roll back. We set Trap Trick, use Trap Trick, and then chain a Paleo card. So we're basically trying to go for the OTK here, or at least do some damage. Okay, no, never mind. So we just hit for 24. We have Breakthrough skill set, and we are able to pop the SP in end phase. We will Black Gold Laughs again, and we stop Raisin. So they go into Mad Love, we use Breakthrough skill to negate, and then we special summon back the Paleo trap. They'll Ash our Xyz monster, but again, unaffected by monster effects, so we get Ice Dragon's Prison out and pop, and they scoop it up. And we're back with the deck list here. Big tip of the cap and thank you to Dr. Saka for letting me feature his replays on my channel. I hope I did them justice. I'm sorry I'm not as experienced with this deck in particular. But I definitely see the vision here. The deck really held its own against some of the top meta threats, such as Branded Dracotail, Vanquish Soul K9, Mitsurugi. Again, it is before the ban list, but even so, I think now it would be even stronger going into these decks as well, because they've lost some of their consistency. And then a note before we finish: one, obviously, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out. But two, I also wanted to encourage anyone who wants to submit replays for me to take a look at and then potentially feature in the future. Just fill out the form in the description and I'd be happy to take a look when I have the time. I think it's cool that we can see other decks that maybe aren't getting as much representation on YouTube or in other people's replays. I'm a sucker for rogue decks that can make some noise. But yeah. Honestly, I'm just looking for any cool, fun replays. The higher the rank, the better, obviously, because again, that just shows higher skill from the respective duelists. But yeah, one final round of applause for Dr. Saka again for putting this deck together, dueling his heart out, and letting me feature it. But yeah, until next time, y'all, take care.